It's been a while since I've done one of these patch notes videos, but I want to get back in the routine here, and I'm going to try and keep them a little shorter, okay? Because I want to have bite-sized content as well sometimes. And with this here, we're talking about patch notes, so if we can just have everything within 10 minutes or 15 minutes opposed to like 30, 40, it would be much easier for us to all know what's going on. Now, with that here, couple different things. I wasn't expecting huge changes going into the patch because we have the first card drop of the year coming in April, and I don't think they want to stir the pot too much before they go and release a bunch of new cards, and I think that's a smart way to look at it. However, when skimming through the dev video quickly and skimming through the patch notes before the video, so I had a little bit of an idea of what I'm talking about, I noticed that they're making big changes to the draft mode. So you guys know I haven't really been into the whole seasonal stuff. I find it's just really hit or miss, and the meta feels kind of stale for those modes. However, I'm going to be revisiting drafts soon. Because with this, the big takeaway is that we're getting less cards and we're getting faster games, okay? So with that, we have a 60-second timer reduced to 25. And this is going to be nice for us to just go in, jam some cards, whether it be on a break or, you know, morning coffee or before bed, whatever the case, when you have a few minutes during your commute, and we can actually get a couple games out of the way versus dragging on a game for 15 minutes and half the cards we're playing don't even make sense to begin with. So I like the changes here, and I'm really excited about that. Okay, so definitely going to be doing draft, maybe even dedicate a whole stream to draft as well, just because, you know, it doesn't look like there's a lot of changes coming up for the rest of the patch. Okay, so heading into a few things here, we'll talk about neutrals first. We have Angeline provision change from 10 to 11. Ability change to create and play an artifact from your opponent's starting deck. If your opponent has no artifact in the starting deck, boost self by 6 instead. So the first part hasn't changed, it's mainly the second part, right? So before was 3 base power, was 10 provisions, and it wouldn't boost itself by 6 if they didn't have an artifact. So if you're playing against Renfree, you're done. And there's so many Renfree decks being played that this card just fell off the face of the earth. So with this here, at least there's a little bit of redemption, okay? It's nothing that's going to break the card. You're still getting a 1 provision nerf to 11. However, you do get a boost 6. So worst case scenario, this card plays for 9 points for 11 provision, which is a sad story, but best case scenario, it has a really high ceiling if they're playing Assimilate or something like that, and they're able to play your scenario. That's a huge deal, okay? And then it plays well above its provisions. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just show you guys the cards that I'm talking about at the same time, so we're all on the same page here. This is the one that we're looking at, Angeline. If you're new to the game, you probably haven't seen her. Okay, so going back to the free company, this card in its current state was perfect for elves, okay? And now with the changes, you're not going to be putting this in elves decks anymore, I don't believe. All right, so with it here, armor went from 1 to 0, provision went from 8 to 10, and ability changed to choose an allied bonded unit, then play its top copy from your deck, cooldown 3. Now, you could see why this wouldn't be good for elves. However, it's going to be good for every faction in some way. Okay, Qcento's got a couple pretty cool bonded cards that you might put maybe in like an Alzur deck. Okay, you have Harpies in monsters. You've got Half-Roos in Qcento or Skellige. There's just so many different things that you could do with bonded. But I'm glad that it's not limited to one faction, and it's going to see a lot more play, and we'll talk about it here. Basically, my copy-paste methods will change throughout the video, so bear with me here. Now, boost all allied bandits by 1. That was a huge swarm payoff for elves. No longer, okay? So if you're playing elves, you better dump this, and I don't mind it at all, because now we can go back to playing cards like Yavin. I found it was really tough to fit Yavin and that in the deck once Simlas and Alyssa got the nerf, okay? So, you know, maybe elves just got back their identity a little bit more, okay? We have Gascon, power changed from 1 to 2, ability changed to when in hand, deck, or on the battlefield. Whenever you play a second copy of a bonded unit this match, boost self by 3. So I already see problems with this. I already see problems, I already see abuse with this. Northern Realms and Nilfgaard have the ability to just print a bunch of cards. This looks like a really big payoff for Reavers, and I'm a little nervous about it, to be honest with you. And Nilfgaard Assimilate, it has other options to just create and play a bunch of stuff. What's that Soldier 4P? You know, it's on the tip of my tongue right now. You know, just spawn a copy of a bronze from your enemy. Like those, they bond those up with Truffle, they make a bunch of copies. This card can just get crazy. And the thing is, I found they've been leaning more towards these 8 provision, really huge payoff cards like Karen Thier, like you have the Owl, like you've got tons of different options, right? So it's just another one of those cards, and hopefully it isn't going to break the game in any sort of way. But Gascon right now was too much of a lottery. Gascon right now was pretty sad, actually. We're talking about this one here. Boosts out by random amount between 0 and 11. And you know, when I play this card, because I'm cursed, it would get a boost +1 or something like that, right? Or even 0. I'd probably get the 0. So I'm glad they made the change because it needed the change. I'm just not glad about the change, okay? So Gimpy Gerwin's coming up here next. Power change from 3 to 5. Armor change from 0 to 1. Provision change from 7 to 9. So you already know they're going to do something here. Whenever you play another unit, damage all units with the same provision cost by 1. I wonder when we could benefit from that. I'd like to see that in play. That's something I'm going to have to mess around with. What's their intention with this here? What's it do right now? Damage an enemy by 3 and all copies of it by 1. No one plays this right now. Whenever you play another unit, damage all enemy units with the same provision cost by 1. So if you're seeing a lot of 4s or a lot of 5s or whatever the case, or, you know, you could definitely just start chewing through it. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I gotta do something with this and just get a better impression of how it's gonna go down. What do you guys think about Gimpy Gerwin in its new state compared to the old? Because old wasn't really doing much. One-Eyed Betsy changed from 4 to 7. That's base power. Provision changed from 10 to 8. Ability change to drop the 2 bonded units, then shuffle the same number of cards back into your deck. Order, replayed an allied bonded unit. Again, scary. This is scary, right? I can just see the vision already with these cards. Now, it's a consistency tool. You get to replay a card. It's hard to remove. It's actually very difficult to remove at 7. I'm surprised it wasn't just 6 because, you know, that's a lot for 8 provisions, I would say. It has the potential to put out extra engines on the board, you know what I mean? So, One-Eye Betsy, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here. It's not going to show me because I put a space. This one. I actually thought they could do more into the control and just like maybe just raise these values by 1 and then I'd be keen, but the rework is fine, I guess. We'll see how it plays. I'm not upset about it. I just, again, there has to be something to limit the abuse that you could do within the 2 factions that can just print cards the same and just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, right? So, Renfri's Gang, deployability is now also triggered when all cards in the deck are units. This is a change for draft mode. So it's not going to affect the actual game. This is the part of the stream that I actually saw. They're just going to make it so that you can play Renfri's Gang in draft mode. I guess they want to make sure it works properly. Bomb Heaver, provision change from 5 to 4. Bring back Maddock. I'm actually pretty happy about this one. Again, some kind of Maddock deck with bonded Qcento units could be a thing, maybe. Alright, damage an enemy by 1 if you have a bomb in your hand, damage by 3. The fact that this is going to go to 4 still doesn't make it good, it just makes it alright. If I have a card that's 4 base power with 3 damage, and it's not row locked, it's actually better than using like a Bowman or something like that. So, if you've got orders on board, I could see this being very good in Qcento. Because let's say you have a skirmisher, one of the dwarves, right? And you have 3 damage on the order, then you can go and complete a kill at 6 with this the next turn and just use the order. So I'm really interested in trying this. I think this is probably going to be one of the first things I do, is bringing back bombs, making bombs great again. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. I'm really excited actually about Bomb Heaver. Remember when Bomb Heaver used to destroy Scenario? Those were different days. So coming up here we have Cutthroat next. Power change from 3 to 5. Provision cost change from 4 to 5. Ability change to destroyed enemy unit with 2 or less power. Bonded. Destroy an enemy unit with 4 or less power. Not even damage, just to, like, get rid of it. That's interesting. Power got a buff, so you mean to tell me that it's 5 power and it has 4 damage reach when bonded. And if we chip something down with this, we can literally play this and destroy it. Or we could take down a 7 with this. That's kind of scary, right? It's just, I mean, they call it Cutthroat for a reason, I guess. Okay, gotta take out the spaces. So, this was used sometimes in Vampires, and it wasn't really doing much. Now it's gonna do a lot, okay? Highwayman, power changed from 4 to 1. Provision changed from 4 to 5. Ability change to whenever you play a bonded unit that you already control a copy of, summon self from your deck to the melee row. Exposed, move yourself to the top of the deck. I don't know about this one. First impressions, just reading that now for the first time, it doesn't seem like something that I would want to use as much as some of the other stuff, right? Every faction's got pretty good consistency tools, and they often don't come with this sort of kickback. You would really want to make sure that you don't let that be exposed, because why would you want that back in your deck? I guess you could just re-thin it again if it becomes a problem, but it's going to be this fight to damage and just to bring it back out. So do I want to spend my round doing that? Or do I want to spend my round actually getting points on the board? I don't know. I'll have to just mess around with it here. We're talking about Highwayman. I believe I know the card art for this one here. Let's see if I'm right. I was not right. Again, these cards haven't been seeing play. I guess the rework's kind of interesting. It's not like it's a lot of thinning either, right? It's not like it's a huge swing of tempo. So that's why I'm not having the highest expectations about this, but we'll see. Iron Falcon Infantry. Power change from 4 to 3. Ability change to at the end of your turn, boost self by 1 if this is the only card on its row. Bonded at the end of your turn, boost self by 1 instead. So we have an engine with a contingency of bonded, right? Power change to 3. That's going to be easy to remove. That's going to be easy to manipulate. I don't think this is it. I think this is one of the ones that just isn't as good. Control ones always do better than boosty ones. I liked Infantry with Barricade. I thought that was kind of fun, but it was limited to maybe it was limited to, let's say, it would be Scoia'tael, right? What they could have done maybe to this card instead was keep it the Barricade, but maybe add a soldier tag. I don't know how that would work lore-wise, but it would help you be able to play this in other factions, Northern Realms, Nilfgaard, and maybe give people something different to give a try. But we'll see how this goes. Iron, Falcon, Knife, Juggler. Power change from 2 to 4. Provision change from 4 to 5. Ability change to Zeal, Order, damage an enemy unit by 1. Bonded also gave it bleeding 1. Whenever you play a bonded unit, refresh the order. So you're looking at engine overload decks, and some of them are easy to remove, and they actually involve some time to get the payoff that you're looking for to make them worth these new provisions. Now, I think that's the way it should be for neutral cards. However, I just think that Point Slam overall could be more effective. That's why I'm thinking that the package with Bomb Heaver and the Cutthroat is probably going to be the go-to, and some of the other stuff is going to be not as popular. But again, that's just at a first glance. So did we look at the Iron Knife? We didn't. You probably know the one. If you're new to the game especially, you've definitely seen this one in the bottom of your deck builder, because you only have 5 cards anyways, right? So that's the one. And we have Iron Falcon Troubadour. Ability change 2, deploy, spawn a 1 power lock copy of a bonded unit from your starting deck on this row. So I guess you better either unlock that, or it's just so that you can create that bonded environment. I don't think you need this in the decks that are going to really like this playstyle anyways. Right? Nilfgaard, Northern Realms, Skellige, like the ones that really like bonded, I don't know if they're going to need this as much. This might be good in maybe Alchemy, for example, where you can go and you can bring out one of the druids, and then you can maybe purify it with Gremist or whatever the case, and then that's going to help contribute to your swarm, and then you just have a bunch of alchemies, you know what I mean? But I don't see this seeing much play otherwise. It just feels like a very slow play that doesn't really put out a lot of points to begin with. However, the 2 armor thing wasn't that great to begin with. Now we have Sapper, Bandit tag change to Soldier. It's kind of interesting. Power change from 5 to 2. Armor change from 0 to 2. Provision cost change from 5 to 6. Ability change to deploy, play a bomb from your hand, then draw a card. I like that. That's really cool. Whenever you play a bomb, damage a random enemy by 1. Okay, so this is actually... I'm putting 2 of these. Right? We're putting 2 of these. We're putting 2 of these and 2 of these, I think. That's going to be the quote-unquote bandit package so far. And let's pull it up here. Definitely play a bomb from your hand and draw a card. I like this a lot because Simlas into bombs feels horrible, but this into bombs feels pretty good. And you get the added benefit of drawing a card. Wow. I'm going to have some fun with this, guys. I'm actually really excited for this specifically, just because I see the vision, okay? We got Scout coming up here next. Power change from 5 to 4. Ability change to move a unit to the other row. What? The other row, as in we're moving it to their other row? I guess it is, because it otherwise would have said opposite row, meaning like a C's. So if you're in doubt about this one, I'm 99.9 sure that this is just the opponent's other row. It's just a movement tech, which is fine. Scout, that's interesting. Move a unit, not their unit. So this could be the Strays of Spala alternative. What's the provision right now? Please be a 4. Yes. What were they thinking at Vale? I don't know, man. I'm definitely liking that quite a bit. Movement tech and a 4 for 4. Yeah, I could deal with that. That can win games. If you're playing Kelly, they push it back with guerrilla tactics, you're done. So now there's a chance. If you're playing against Frost a lot, now there's a chance. So definitely a little buff for Kelly and those that really require rows in order to work. We have Strays of Spala, probably got to change because Scout literally took over what that was, okay? Now, provision change from 5 to 4. Ability change to deploy, shuffle a gold from your hand to your deck, then draw a bronze card and boost self by 4. Bonded, boost self by 4 instead. So that's 4 points with consistency, and it gives you round depth, which is interesting because if your opponent likes to push and try to win on even like every single person does, then you can fix your hand a little bit more so that you actually can try and play and get out. Draw a bronze card and boost self by 4. So this is actually considered like the drawback, I guess, from it, okay? But I see it as a positive thing too. And then the bonded boost self by 4 instead is just the payoff from being bonded. So if you're bonding this, it's 8 points. If you're not bonding it, it's still 8 points, but it's also round depth contribution. So I think that's fine. What you could do is if you're playing Roach or Knickers or something like that, and you want to hold that in hand and go into the round with Strays, then you can just put that card back in your deck anyways, you know, and not have to worry about compromising a good gold, and then that'll just naturally thin out later anyways. So that's pretty interesting. Strays feels like an unconditional value play, even though there's a condition, if that makes sense. Wagon, power change from 4 to 5. Armor change from 0 to 3. Provision change from 4 to 6. Ability change to deploy, banish the bronze unit to the right, and gain resilience. Oh no. Order, transform self into a base copy of a banished unit. Of the banished unit. Expose, purify self. Okay. So, armor at 3, but if we can do 3 damage and expose that guy, which shouldn't be difficult, then it loses the resilience. And if we kill it before we can trigger the order, then it won't even be able to spawn that copy again. So this card is really easy to make play for 0 points. But you got to get through 5 and 3. That's the problem. So if you have pings, if you like playing decks with just like charges, like Siege, I can see these types of things being very effective. Some of the armor plays feel like buffs to Siege, just being able to chew through that much quicker than a lot of other decks that might maybe have like a 4 or 5 damage card in hand, right? I'm glad we're kind of pumping through the neutrals here. We're moving on to the actual factions. This is what I'm more curious to see here. So we have Carapace, Caranthir, Lilith's, Manor's Dark Secret, which is Sabbath. Ability restrictions change from monstrous to non-neutral. They talked about a lot of these changes. It's not really going to affect the way that we play outside of draft mode, but we'll just mention them as we see them. Plumard, ability change to deploy given enemy unit bleeding 2, bonded given enemy unit bleeding equal to its base power instead. I don't know if you realize how good of a change that was for vampires. Really easy, good, solid change for vampires that could make fletters grow so tall. So expect people to try it. Expect the need for some tall punish, okay? Because if it takes off, it's going to take off well. This could actually replace something like an Undying Thirst, right? If you look at, I'm just going to show you what it looks like here. Maybe I should have been more specific, but Undying Thirst, give an enemy unit 6 bleeding, right? We didn't always want to run these because they were very conditional, and what we were relying on was the 6 boost on at least 1 fletter, but hopefully 2 or more, so that we get the 12 plus the 6, because this is very progressive. You might not even be in the round long enough to make this tick. You need the immediate payoff. So with the change, that's massive. Base power, right? Playing against Skellige, they slam tall units. If you're playing against Nilfgaard, they have Renfrey point slam. You know what I mean? So this is going to be something to look at. We talked about all the leaders and card tags that had for Skellige. Any sort of faction restrictions are now changed to non-neutral. The same thing applies with Northern Realms. The same thing applies with Scoia'tael, specifically Harmony. No changes for Nilfgaard, but indirectly they received a ton of buffs. Let's be honest here. They want to act like, no, I didn't touch it. Yes, you did with everything else, but hopefully it isn't too toxic, okay? Now, Syndicate, no changes. I think they could have done a couple things. Maybe give us a little bit more to play with on the crime side. Maybe give us a little bit more to play with on the horde side. You know, there's always a little something you can do there. And focus a bit less on the mid-range sort of off-the-books type deck. I guess Bounty's pretty good right now. But other than that, you have Bounty and maybe mid-range OTB, and that's kind of where you sit for this entire faction, okay? So, a couple game fixes. I haven't experienced them, right? But we'll see. Certain players are no longer blocked from creating decks with specific leader abilities. Okay, it was a monster faction thing. Deck builder search bar now recognizes all special characters. I guess that would be good for maybe translation, different languages. Guillaume no longer ignores self boost from the number of allied knights. Traveling priest order no longer becomes temporarily disabled when being boosted. in an injured state. You know, I actually don't mind that. keep it broken. But yeah, I don't know, man. What do you guys think about the patch notes? I think that overall, they're fairly interesting. I think that they've done a lot of stuff for neutrals that could have different adaptations within the factions. I think that indirectly, anything that deals with bonded is going to buff 2 factions, and it's going to buff them more so than every other faction, so they have to take that in consideration. And what they should have done is maybe take a couple of the bonded cards from Nilfgaard and a couple of the bonded cards from Northern Realms and give it a slight rework or change or nerf or whatever you want to call it, so that it would fit a little nicer, right? Whether it's even a 1 base power nerf or something like that, because now it's going to be that much easier to print stuff and that much more incentive to do so. But we'll open up the conversation, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think of this, and I'll be definitely putting decks together starting tomorrow on patch day. I'm not playing until tomorrow. I'm going to keep it fresh for the new season, and let's get back to the fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully the meta changes.